You're listening to the Vanadium Registry. In days of yore, there was a knight born from a broken promise. Unlike his peers, the soldier didn't begin his days as an apprentice, but first began as a vagrant. Disowned by his family, he was forced out and made to wander his realm all alone. When the vagrant's body could no longer withstand his hardship, he was found in the fields of a simple family of farmers who showed him mercy and took him in. Changed by the good that they'd shown him, the man trained tirelessly and became a soldier, one of untainted honor who showed mercy to even the most dangerous of enemies. But unlike the farmers, his compassion was taken advantage of, and he was soon betrayed. The kind ranchers who had become his family were framed and arrested. Their property was seized and burned publicly. This act of injustice had finally poisoned the knight's heart. Changed by cruelty, he abandoned his rank and took a new pledge, not of loyalty, not of bravery, but one of wrath. The fury of the knight devastated the realm as he warred with all kingdoms. None could defeat him, and none could soothe his despair. They can only wait for the armored destroyer to come. And now, Recollection Report 7. The news of a mourning night. Ocean waves smoothly rocked my ship as I stared across the deck at the timer steadily counting down my entrance into the water. 9, 8, 7. I closed my eyes. 6, 5. I began counting along. 4, 3, 2. As the clock reached 1, I heard a soft beep in my earpiece and leapt backwards into the air. As I descended off of the side of my boat, I watched the evening sky disappear behind the tide's watery veil as it separated me from the world above. After my entry, I motioned away a coat of bubbles and took in the sight before me. I floated above one of the underwater grids that lined the haven's ocean floors. Most of the facilities were out of power. As I investigated deeper, scarlet spheres bobbed past my face and drew my attention to the red-smeared trail spreading beneath me. It was blood flowing from my teammate's ship that was trapped between the wreckage of a data station. Using the blood to guide me, I navigated a maze of falling steel structures, melted circuit paths, and exploding generators that shot curled sheets of metal towards me until I found the trail's wounded sources. My team's guard floated unconscious at the ship's entrance and bled heavily from several slashes that cut through his suit and tore deep within his skin. In the control room, our technician laid pinned to the floor by parts of the structure's ceiling that had fallen on her. A navigator was choking in the supply closet with a crushed air cartridge tightly clutched to his throat. And at the end of the control hall was our captain, limply hanging out of his seat and bleeding from his head. With most of my team unconscious and bleeding out before me, I knew that I didn't have time to get everyone to the surface one by one without most of them dying during our ascent, or us drawing attention from dangerous sea life in this area. I swam to the supply closet where our navigator was struggling on his last sip of oxygen and exchanged my oxygen cartridge for his. Next, I swam to the emergency panel and began typing in my override key into the ship's console. With a warm hum, the frame of the structure came alive, but the navigation system was fried. I was running out of time and air. Quickly swimming over to our unit's control room, I plunged my barrier key into the floor behind me, separating myself and the ship's raw power system from the rest of my team. The technician pinned behind me began squirming and vigorously screaming a bubbled plea for me to stop. She knew what I was going to do, but I ignored her. I knew the risk, and this was the only way to get everyone to safety in one trip. I went inside one of my pockets and uncovered a dense knife. Its blade emerged and glowed in my hand. I ignored my breath thinning inside my lungs and steadied myself. Focusing on the ship's pulsing core, I watched for its rhythmic pattern to repeat. I had one chance to strike the core during its reset pattern that took place between its first and third pulse cycle. Any other time would do nothing but cause a poisonous explosion designed to kill pirates who often feign this method of system breaking. The rhythm was fast, but I was much faster. Seizing my only window of opportunity, I stabbed the cord at center and stopped its pulsing globe. As its outer shell began to crust and sink to the floor's luminescent shards, I twisted my knife sharply to the right, exposing the core's raw energy and locking my knife in place, as its rhythm altered and began pulsing the ship's reset key. As the ship accepted the emergency command to resurface, our unit shook powerfully and glowed from the sudden surge of power, and then rocketed upwards. Using the ship's momentum, I stomped an upturned floor panel out of place to use as a shield, and firmly pressed myself between the base of the core's podium and the wall to anchor myself from being thrown around with the ship's stray debris. During our ascent, my barrier recognized the flying scrap metal as immediate threats and created smaller casings around each of my teammates that harnessed them to their surroundings and protected them from being impaled on any scattering remains. After breaching the surface like a whale, I quickly moved each team member to my ship's medical space and began emergency aid as my autopilot sailed us back to base. "Hey, are you done yet? I mean, how long does it take to get sewn up anyway?" asked Benji, our navigator. Pushing his privacy curtain away, he began pulling his shirt over his head and began picking at snacks on a nearby table. "I don't know why I saved that ingrate," our guard Imbe said, as I finished the last of his stitches. "Because you vowed to protect your beloved teammates while on duty," our captain said while entering the room. "Even if it means being attacked by some venomous sea life now and again. So what do you say, Doc? Got a clean bill of health?" "Spotless. These are just a few scrapes for such a dedicated guard. Nothing to worry about," I say, earning a blush to form at Emmett's neck as he turned and suppressed a soft, bashful smile. "All right, that's good to hear, man," Benji said, while patting confidently on Emmett's shoulder. "So you're paying at Otilli's tonight, right?" Emmett responded with a blank face before taking Benji's hand off of him and crushing it between his fists. "So anyway, where's Fane?" Captain Grayson asked, as we both turned our backs and ignored Benji's screams for help. "I don't know, probably doing her makeup somewhere." While putting away my surgical tools, I paused. I regretted how bitter I sounded. "Look, I'm sorry. She's not too happy about my methods of rescuing, so she left as soon as she woke up," I explained, causing the room to go quiet. "Yona, it's not that she's not grateful. It's just that after Bayurma's death, I know. I didn't show it, but today was really hard for me. The last thing I wanted was to be compared to their past team member again. Despite her being their previous guard, they keep comparing me, their new doctor, to her. I've lost count of how many times they've told me how similar we both are, how I act more like a guard than a doctor. But considering how their past guard died while going out to save them, I've tried to understand why they're so protective of me during rescue missions. Look, let's go celebrate." I changed the subject. Today was big. We survived a data plant wreckage. We're getting upgraded tech soon, too. I mean, for once, Benji might actually be right. We need to celebrate this. "Well, if that's your professional opinion, Doc," Benji said, ushering us all out of the medical wing's doors with his arms draped over our shoulders. As we arrived at Otilli's, Benji cracked jokes. I played into them. Emmett pretended to be annoyed at our silliness while softly laughing to himself, while Captain Grayson looked on as a proud parent would. We were all having a great time until we saw the dock across the street. Leaning over the railing was our team's technician, Hannah Fane, staring blankly at the sea. "You guys go ahead. I'll be in a minute." I excused myself and ran across the street to the dock. "Hey." Standing beside her, I leaned my back against the railing and rested my elbows along the old wood, as if it were a comfortable sofa. "Hey," Fane answered softly. "I thought you'd already be partying with everyone by now." "I don't know, maybe later," she said, sounding out of character and looking lost in the sea below us. It's so calm up here. But another data plant could be exploding right below us, and we wouldn't know until getting called out to fix it, or to retrieve someone's dead body. After an exhausted sigh, Hannah Fane began looking up longingly at the noble citadel that hung like a dim sun above us. Fane, it really was the only way to get everyone to the surface safely. There's always another way, she refuted. But Yerma used to say the same thing, and it always worked out. Until it didn't. And now she's gone. She squeezed her eyes shut, as if to keep bad memories away. I can't have another friend die because of me. Fane, we spend countless hours in these waters. Probably more than we do on land. But when Bayerma went missing trying to save us, no mission was assigned to find her. They gave us paperwork. Shaking her head in disgust, she turned to face me. You don't know what it's like to have to fill out that kind of form. To have to answer those kinds of questions. For authorities to stall you until your best friend's declared dead. When I transferred, I knew the entire team was at their breaking points, but especially Fane. The only one who took it worse than her was the previous doctor, who went as far as leaving the team out of protest. Despite being close to each of them, they haven't heard from him since. Fane, this job was never meant to be safe. That's why there's not a lot of people even in the havens that are willing to do it. But no one will die on my watch. My declaration got her attention and earned a smile. I promise. A sad calmness came to Fane, as if she's heard these words before, from another friend. Before joining our friends at Otilli's, we relaxed quietly on the dock, both of us enjoying the night air and listening to how the sounds of everyone enjoying themselves across the street mix with the ocean waves. I was taken in by the moment, before a soft auroral glow caught my attention. Carefully, I knelt down to see what it was. What do you do? I stopped Fane with a finger to my lip, before waving her to look at the majestic creature beneath us. A glowing fish bobbed hypnotically in place, while stilling the water around it. Is that a seer? Fane asked, while whipping her phone out of her purse to take a picture. Gently, I placed my hands in the ocean, joining the ethereal fish in the dock's cold water. Fane, let's make a wish. Seriously? Fane looked around embarrassed at the childishness of my request. Okay, but if anyone hears about this, she warned, while pulling up her new sleeves and playing down her excitement. After a giddy yet deep breath, we both closed our eyes and muttered the same words that every child is taught when making a wish. Seer within the darkest depths, traveler of paths unknown, protect the hope that you have been given, from the heart that you have been shown. May the tides not hinder you, give danger no place. Deliver my wish, let it come to wake. We both paused and thought our wish in our hearts. When we opened our eyes, the seer was gone, leaving behind only an heroic trail into the deep. It was just like the legends say. As I lightly shook the luminescent water from my hands, sounds of Emmett and Benji singing karaoke traveled along the wind. They were really good. We both laughed at how they'd always call a truce when it came to karaoke. Singing was a talent they both shared, and Otilli's is known for bringing unlikely people together over food and music. Let's get over there before their karaoke tour ends and they're back at each other's throats. As we walked to leave the dock, red scan lines flashed over Fane and I, as if it was taking our picture. Before I could turn to face the direction of the flash, soldiers came out of hiding from the nearby street and surrounded us. Yona, what's happening? Fane asked, stumbling backwards. The soldiers trained their guns at us while muttering over the radios. They looked hesitant about something, like an order had changed on a whim's notice. I overheard only a few phrases. Type 5, strike orders, and OTS. Off the scale. Fane, run! I shouted, Vane bolted from beside me, aiming for the dock's other exit. I stood ready to defend myself as best I could, as a few soldiers drew closer towards me. I watched the way they moved for signs of weaknesses or past injuries, as I listened to Vane's scared footsteps escaping to safety. Her heels scraping the dock's old wood rhythmically felt familiar, calling me back to the moments I listened to the ship's timer counting down the seconds before my entrance into the water. 7, 6, but instead of the evening sky, 5, 4, I faced an army of soldiers. 3, 2, and instead of being submerged in water, 1. I was engulfed in pain. Not from being attacked, but from the sound of Hannah Vane being shot instead of me. I slowly turned to see what I couldn't believe to be true. Vane's body lay lifeless on the dock, her hands still reaching out for safety, her face frozen in a horrified and pained expression, and her body twisted from the immediate and painful death. I let out a shrieked wail and ran towards her. Above me, the night sky sunk inward, revealing cloaked aerial units descending overhead. Team 46, descend, ordered someone over the ship's speaker. Despite only being shot once, Vane was bleeding everywhere. I shouted for help, but the partying in Otilli's continued, completely unaware of the horrors right outside of their doors. I pulled Vane over my shoulder to carry her, but a new team of soldiers shot at me, causing me to stumble into the dock's water with Vane's body falling with me. Her blood stained the water as we entered. I lost hold of Vane during the fall, and a series of raging tides separated us. No matter how hard I tried to reach her again, an undercurrent simply drug her further and further beneath me. White lights cut through the water. The soldiers were still looking for me. During the blinding moment, a wave overtook me and forced me along a traveling current. Numbly, I watched the water shed Vane's blood from my clothes and skin. I don't know how long it took, but by the time I could fight the push of the water again, I walked a shallow seabed until I emerged onto Haven 41 Central Park. Stumbling from the field and into the streets, I left a trail of drenched footsteps behind me. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to go to. The soldiers looked official, so the police wouldn't help. They'd just hold me until the soldiers arrived and hand me over. As I rounded an empty corner, I was shot with something. Power dampener deployed, reported the shooter as more soldiers poured out of my surroundings. Acting on instinct, I ripped the metal capsule out of my skin. It wasn't a normal bullet. It was filled with a black liquid. Behind me, I heard a soldier give orders to the others. Deploy Serum VO5. But that version hasn't been authorized for countermeasures yet. If she dies, then Novus will have another dead Forge instead of a failed mission. Interrupted the soldier. Which one do you care about? Forge. Novus is gathering forges? Using the soldier's hesitation, I charged through the front lines and dashed into the crowded Haven streets. I shouted like I had gone mad. They want to take me quietly? Not gonna happen. I approached people for help. No one was willing to help me, but they started to gather at my commotion. They couldn't look away from such a bizarre sight. Stumbling in front of a store window, I saw myself, drenched wet and covered in blood that mixed with the bullet's black liquid. I was beginning to wonder if the soldiers would dare attack me in the open, when rows of soldiers charged the streets. Some ushered people out of the way, while other soldiers began shooting at me on sight, disregarding who I was near. These bullets were different. They burned hot and felt spiked as they tore through my skin, leaving a bleeding trail of silver and black as it traveled through me. But this wasn't going to stop me. I ran further through the commercial intersection, where even more people were. I kept making a commotion for both help and attention, until the sky was filled with news helicopters, and the streets were filled with soldiers, bystanders, news crews. I saw my face on the intersection's jumbotrons, holographic signs, and on people's phones. For a few moments, There was silence. Then I heard one cold word blare over the soldiers' comms. Fire! Without hesitation, soldiers riddled me with bullets. Anyone remotely near me scattered to avoid being shot too. All of the cameras echoed my voice as I screamed out in pain. Like a doll cut from her strings, I watched my body crumble on the jumbotrons. After a few minutes of uninterrupted gunshots and screams, the bloody symphony came to a united stop, finally allowing the smoke and dust to part and reveal where I laid fallen on the street. I couldn't believe the silhouette with trails of smoke steaming from her bullet wounds was me. The onlookers paused, questioning if they'd really just watched an entire army of soldiers gun down a frantic woman who had just begged them for help. As if awoken from a deep sleep, I let out a long, withheld breath. Glowing shockwaves erupted from my body. Walls of light tore and lifted the earth as they traveled from me. Before everyone's eyes, my bullet wounds closed, and my surroundings began to distort as a chilling wind fogged the air. I stood up jaggedly as an armor frosted over my body. Motioning my arms out, 2 vitric swords formed in my palms. Peering through the fog, I faced the army with an inhuman roar. Many soldiers retreated, but they didn't let me run. Now neither will.
Striking the street before me, I blazed unearthed the concrete and sent a blast that brought one of the army's planes crashing down to the street behind them. The soldiers began shooting me again, but unlike last time, the bullets couldn't penetrate my armor. Running into a spin, my blades divided the troops. Within a few moments, the army dwindled before everyone's eyes. Seeing a soldier nearby frantically reloading his weapon, I jabbed him with the handle of my sword and seized him by the face. Dangling his injured body above me, I felt the fear of his comrades around me. The few remaining soldiers stopped attacking me instantly. Oh, they must care for him deeply. I felt his heartbeat throb relentlessly near my palm. Then, the soldier broke. He began begging for his life. He spoke of his elderly parents, his beloved wife, his young daughter. He spoke of them until he ran out of words. He wasn't begging for his life. He was begging me to spare his family the pain of losing him. His pleads brought me out of my fit of rage. I noticed my reflection in his broken helmet. I looked like a monster, smeared silver and black, covered in someone else's blood, readying a jagged sword at a man's stomach. A horrid creature willing to kill a begging man. I tightened my grip on the soldier one last time before tossing him in the air. Swiftly, I jabbed my sword towards him, but instead of impaling him, I stopped short, allowing a force of air to catapult him to his desperate comrades. I drew my sword back gracefully to me, before firmly stabbing the ground. The impact exposed the intersection's underground systems, electrical grids, water pipes, all exploding into each other and creating a flashy diversion as I vanished from sight amongst the destruction. After escaping, I hid in one of the many rundown hotels in Haven 41 that didn't ask any hard questions, like, who am I? I scrolled through my phone as footage of my transformation and fight had gone viral. I watched videos of the confrontation that was filmed by bystanders from several different angles. Witness interviews corroborated the authenticity of the videos, all agreeing on the same sequence of events. An unidentified woman was shot relentlessly, but instead of dying, emerged fully healed before fighting with the strength of a noble and defeated a legion of soldiers within a matter of minutes. Emergency broadcasts took over the news feeds, featuring leaders of the army that attacked me, identifying themselves as Strykor before showing my diver ID image and giving strict orders to turn me in on sight or face severe consequences. Internet sleuths began identifying me as proof of the long-rumored terror called Forges. This triggered an outcry from the public for official answers,
to who or what I was. It was official. Forges were no longer urban myths. We have everyone's attention, especially the nobles. The Vanadium Registry is a Studio Imbe production. This show was written and performed by Asia Ansley. Original soundtrack, mixing, and video editing are also by Asia Ansley. Likewise, all artwork and cover art are by Asia Ansley. Learn more about the Vanadium Registry and view the series at our website, imbe.studio. The Vanadium Registry is a listener-supported production. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting us on Buy Me a Coffee and by sharing our work. Thank you.